adult neurological diseases, disorders, specifically Alzheimer's and dementia, it's all, I kid you not, it's the same disease. All right, it's all under vascular health, okay? So I have to give a disclaimer. This platform is not for diagnosing. I do not diagnose for a living, okay? If you're having issues or if you're having, needing to see someone, you have to, for diagnosing or whatever you may be going on, you're gonna have to seek a health provider. This platform it's like a tool to keep you well informed so you can make, the best decision in regards to your physical health and your overall spiritual well-being, okay? You guys know my style. I love the interaction, the engagement. Just we have to keep our comments short because I have 1 hour to get this done. So let's try to keep the comments down to like 30 seconds. If you have a burning question, raise your hand. We'll get the mic to you. And I think those are all my disclaimers. So with that, let's officially get started. Can one of you guys finish this sentence for me? Can y'all finish the sentence? Let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus. You guys are my people. Well, sounds like Paul speaking, right? Philippians 2, verse 5. Let this mind be in you. Another quote that I want to share with you before we get started, and you're going to find this out more and more. There are no specific diseases, only disease conditions. That's by Florence Nightingale. If you guys know her, we have, she is like, she wears that cape. She really does. Like, we wouldn't have the nursing profession without her. She was from an affluent family. And when she said she wanted to be a nurse, they kind of looked down on her because it was just kind of like, what, you want to be a nurse? Why? But she had this deep understanding and compassion for people. That's what made this profession what it is. And she had this understanding that there are no specific diseases, even though our healthcare system treats every disease. Like if you're having like a heart condition, you go to your cardiologist. If you're having, a neurological problem, you go to your neurologist, but they understood back then, they had an understanding that there are no, and she wasn't the only one who was saying that there are no specific diseases, only disease conditions. So when the body is in a state where it starts to break down, now you see disease, dis-ease. Now you see malady meaning a bad, it's a French word, mal meaning bad sickness, bad disease. One more quote I want to share. I should have had it up here for you guys, but it's okay. Once, you've heard it before, it's real popular. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. When we look at this disease, the Alzheimer's, the dementia, why we should know about it, why we should be aware of it, why the experts are, saying this is the crisis of the 20th century and the 21st century in terms of the human race is, and specifically for this disease, dementia and Alzheimer's, an ounce of prevention is worth, I say, 10 pounds of cure. Okay, so whoever has the mic, if they could read. By the way, I'm using Ministry of Healing. The chapter is Diet and Health, I believe. So if you have your book, you could follow along with these quotes. If somebody could read this.
Its portion. The brain must be supplied with its portion. The bones, muscles, and nerves demand theirs. Ministry of Healing. It is a wonderful process that transforms the food into blood, and it uses the blood to build up the varied parts of the body. Ministry of Healing again.
Would you guys agree with that statement?
Yes.
I think it's well said. She couldn't have said it any better. When we think about the brain, the more the experts are studying the brain, the more they realize they don't know a whole lot about the brain. I put some diagrams up here. We have here the frontal lobe, right? The frontal lobe, what do y'all know about the frontal lobe? Most people refer to it as the judgment seat, right? It's where you get your goal-oriented behavior, like, I'm gonna clean my whole house today. That's your frontal lobe saying, You really need to get that done. Short-term memory, right? Elaborate thoughts, right? And then your parietal lobe is here, okay? And that has to do with communication between the motor sensors, okay? We have two hemispheres. The brain has two hemispheres, right and left, okay? Because that's the way God designed it. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body and vice versa. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. And within the two big hemispheres, these are the lobes that you find, okay? Occipital lobe. What do y'all know about the occipital lobe? Down here. It has to do with vision, right? And that includes part of the cerebellum, all right? And within that, we also have the temporal lobe. What do you know about the temporal lobe? Temporal lobe has to do with speech, right? Have you ever heard of the term an individual suffering from aphasia or dysphagia? Recently, one of the most famous actor that is well known for his movies that he did in the 90s is now suffering from aphasia, the inability to express himself. And he's worth, I think, like $400 million, but nobody can fix his brain, you know? And that's the thing with this disease that leaves the experts, baffled. There's no surgery for the dementia now Alzheimer's. There's no pill. Once the brain is damaged, it's almost no going back. That's why an ounce of prevention in regards to the brain is worth 10 pounds of cure. And within the temporal lobe, also the temporal lobe has to do with like balance and taste, long-term memory. But within the temporal lobe, you find that the hippocampus. An expert have been studying this right in here, deep in the brain, in the temporal lobe. It's the hippocampus. It's shaped like a horse fish, right? That's kind of like an S shape. Experts are studying the brains of individuals that have passed away from dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're finding that the injury to the brain is happening there. And they're, discovering that the hippocampus helps with memory and learning, emotions, behavior. I mean, it helps with, biological rhythm. It helps with many things that they're uncovering. But individuals that suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's, that part of the brain is injured. That part of the brain they see has suffered injury, okay? And then your neurons, these are the cells in the brain, right? We have trillions of them, okay? I mean, I can't even number them. And all of them have these connections, your synapse, right? Myelin sheath that protects the nerve, right? The cell of the neuron is protected by the myelin sheath. And like I said, there's many diseases out there that affects the adult neurological diseases. There's many of them. We're just focusing on the Alzheimer's and the dementia, but there's diseases where if the myelin sheath is destroyed, then the person suffers from like inability to walk and move properly. And then these are the connections that happen here to your synapses that connect. Okay, so that you can communicate exactly how you want to communicate. It's almost like your neurons, the cells of the brain, are like this extension cord, okay? If I were to remove the extension cord, this computer would be useless, okay? So it connects the brain to the body and allows communication and, things to happen without us really having to put much effort. We could spend like the whole year studying just the neurons. We really could. I mean, and still not even uncover much, probably just scratching the surface. Within your central nervous system is your brain and spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system is your cranial nerves and your spinal nerves, okay? So that's gonna be on the test, so make sure y'all remember all of that. Just kidding, I'm gonna be nice. Oh, goodness. All right, builders of the brain. This is what I've called. Oh, I apologize. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The occipital lobe, I heard, is it for coordination?
Can you repeat that?
Is the occipital lobe responsible for coordination?
Occipital?
Yeah.
I was saying that for balance is temporal. Okay. All right. Builders of the brain. This is what I call the builders of the brain. Who has the mic can read this part of the builders of the brain?
It says vigor of the intellect that are not afforded by.
Okay, you don't have your glasses. I need somebody that has their glasses to read it. Menti.
They impart a strength, a power of endurance and vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet.
Thank you, Menti. Y'all agree with that statement? She couldn't have said it better. You know, this is how we want to eat. You want to eat the rainbow, okay? You don't want to chase the rainbow. There's no gold at the end of the rainbow. What you need to do is eat the rainbow. Walnuts, the king of all nuts, okay? If it looks like your brain, it comes from the ground, you keep it in its natural state, that's what you need to be doing. That's what you need to be eating. Because the walnuts is rich in omega-3s, right? Which is the fat that's going to feed your brain. When you eat omega-3s, your body can convert it into the long chain fatty acid, EPH, DHA, and that's the fat that feeds your brain. You don't have to eat fatty fish, okay? You don't have to drink bone broth, okay? You can get it with eating your nuts, and walnuts are the best one that you could eat from. Avocado, I love a good avocado, rich and yeah, I love a good avocado, rich in folate. I mean, monounsaturated fat. Your cruciferous and brassica, your cruciferous vegetables and your brassicas. If there's one that you don't like, I promise you we can find you one that you will like, because there's endless varieties of brassicas and cruciferous vegetables that you can eat from. Okay, I remember when we first stopped eating meat, I couldn't stand cauliflower. And now that my taste buds have changed, okay, when I see a bowl of salad, my mouth actually waters. I enjoy cauliflower. And the way that I enjoy it is when it's in a curry, chopped up in a curry. And that's, I enjoy it. So, Okay, yeah, you could air fry it and make it like little wings, okay? That's another option, you know? So it's just a matter of, you know, trying different ones, trying to experiment different ways to prepare it. You know, if you find one that you don't like, just keep trying it. And it, you know, the thing about these brassicas is that, especially in our climate, we have a long growing season. So you could start your seeds right now. They will overwinter, and you will have fresh foods to eat from your garden come spring and going into summer. Like I planted some kale, and I back in the spring, and I've been eating from it since late spring, summer, and going into fall. Okay, collard greens are another good option. What else? Bok choy. Anybody like bok choy? Great in a stir fry. Absolute. Swiss chard is underrated greens. Okay. It does not, you know, a lot of times the greens will bolt on you when it gets too hot. Not Swiss chard. It's cold tolerant and heat tolerant. It's a good source. Your brassicas and cruciferous vegetables are great in anti-inflammatory properties, anti-cancer properties, fiber, folate, your micronutrients that help to build and repair cells like zinc, potassium, magnesium. We could go on and on, okay? Your berries, rich in antioxidant. Your grains, rich. They keep you full, okay? So they're great, they're resistant starch. So you're not getting the simple white flour. You want to get the resistant starch like your quinoa, your brown rice. Those are all builders of the brain, okay? All right. I do also want to say, my husband and I got to travel recently to Central America. And while we were there, I found out we were in one of the blue zones. I was like, oh, good for us. We were in Guanacaste, which is a Providence. And in Guanacaste is one of the blue zones, which is Nicoya, Costa Rica. It's one of the blue zones. We talked about the blue zones, right? There's about 5 of them where individuals live the longest without experiencing dementia and these chronic illnesses. Many of them live up to be well past 100, and they're very active in their community. Their minds are sharp and intact. And now I see why Nicoya, Costa Rica is a blue zone. It's, first it has to do with the natives, their disposition in life. They have this disposition in life where they can't understand why Americans in other countries are so angry, and they have this disposition of like, para vida is what they say all day long. Para vida, para vida, pura vida. I'm working on my Spanish. Pura vida, meaning what will be, will be. What time are we getting there? Pura vida, what will be, will be. So they're, and then on top of that is the food that they eat and the way that they live. Their government has in some ways protected them, because the natives were telling me that the only reason you will find McDonald's in some towns, like the big towns like Liberia, you'll find McDonald's and some KFCs, because they get all these Americans that want to eat that stuff. But the natives don't eat it because they're like, it's too expensive. So they eat their rice and beans, that's what they have for breakfast. And they eat plantains. We loved their plantains. They have found the most creative ways to make plantains, okay? I didn't think you could make plantains in so many ways. We had no issues eating a vegan diet out there, because they eat a lot of plant foods, a variety of foods. And you see why, and then of course, they're friendly with their bordering countries, so they don't have a lot of civil war and revolutionary wars in that country. And then on top of that, the government does not allow individuals and different people to come and exploit the land. So a lot of the land is protected, the rainforest is protected. So nature is kept the way nature is supposed to be kept. And the natives are allowed to live relatively peaceful, and so that's why you could easily see why it's one of the blue zones, based off their diet and their disposition in life. So that was a great experience. Okay. Impairers of the brain. I've called this the impairers of the brain. Who wants to read? I need a reader. If you have the mic, read. If you don't have glasses, don't put your hands up.
Impairments of brain and function. We cannot safely be guided by the customs of society.
Do you all agree with that
Minister
statement?
Philogene.
Right? This is the Coca-Cola capital. How much sugar is in a can of Coca-Cola? Anybody know? Like 32 to 35 grams, right? That's anywhere between 9 to 12 teaspoons of sugar. And it's not even a sugar. It's like, I don't know, corn syrup, high fructose, the stuff that gives you fatty liver, erodes your teeth. About the only thing Coca-Cola is good for is, if you give it to Chris, he will find something to do with it underneath somebody's car, okay? But this is what's going on in many countries. They're having an issue with these large fizzy drink industries that are moving in. Okay, this is happening in Mexico, where the Coca-Cola has literally moved into some of these towns. has deprived the people of the town clean water, okay? And they have factories there, so the people don't have access to clean water because Coca-Cola is using up the resource, their clean water resource. The government has allowed them to do that. They market to children. And now Mexico is having an issue in their country where diabetes is just like out of control. And the young people are dying from diabetes. You get 40-year-olds got diabetes and they're dying from it. You know, those things should not be happening, you know, but you know, there's just a lack of education in the government allowing, you know, the customs of society to take over. What's wrong with fried chicken? Huh? Did you guys do your homework the last time I was up here and I told you guys to look up TMAO? Did anybody look it up? TMAO. Nobody? I thought somebody would be curious and look at it. Okay, I'll give it to y'all this time. TMAO is a compound that is found when individuals eat meat and it's byproduct, and it's made by the gut bacteria. And when you have high levels of TMAO, you get inflammation. Okay, it destroys the kidneys. It wreaks havoc in your body, cancer causing. So when individuals are eating this, you know, they're just turning on cancer cells. Okay, this is brain damaging. What about coffee? What's wrong with coffee? Huh? Why is the caffeine not a builder of the brain, but impairer of the brain and function? Talk to me. So if you're having a conversation with somebody and like, I gotta have my coffee. You don't drink coffee, what's wrong with, what do you tell them? You don't drink coffee, what's wrong with you? Huh? It makes your blood pH acidic. What happens? You walk around with a peptic stomach. Plus you become codependent on it. You have a caffeine headache. You know, I have some family members that are like, if they don't get their coffee, they cannot function and they have a headache. So you become addicted, you know, it's a drug. So you got to have it and you got to have more of it. Plus they don't even do it good in this country. You know, I'm just saying. Just saying, okay? So what about this? You got that meat laying on the grill, it's got chard on it, it's got blood and fat on it. Why is this a impairer of the brain? Yeah? Okay, right. Well, I mean, the World Health Organization, science has already told us this. You know, when you cook meat in a high temperature like this, and you let it get blackened, you might as well just smoke. It's a class 1 carcinogen, okay? What about smoking? Why is smoking an impairer of the brain and function? Deprives the brain of oxygen. I did a job during the pandemic. It was a crisis job in Texas. I was minding my own business, I promise. I was in the hotel, and as I was looking out my window, I saw a park. So I said, I'm gonna go walk in the park. Okay, so I put my little walking outfit on, going outside, come around the corner to go to the park, and I see a line of people. And these are going to be my coworkers because we got to, you know, take care of this crisis here in Texas. Nurses, all medical professionals, that's what they are. Respiratory therapists, nursing assistants, nurses, they're all lined up against the wall and everybody's smoking. I was shocked. I mean, there was a whole school of them. I just like, guys, like, you guys know better. But yeah, it deprives the brain of oxygen. It doesn't allow the body to remove waste and build itself. It's, you know, brain damaging. Vaping, all of that. Shooting, snorting. What about alcohol? ETOH. Why is that an impairer of the brain? What happens when you drink alcohol? Brain damage. It literally is brain damage. The science has shown, even though we've been told, it sounds so simple to us, okay? But when you meet individuals out there, you have to have a lot of times they may not want to hear this, but they'll hear the science. And the science behind alcohol use, consumption, there's no safe amount on the brain. It's injurious, even just a little bit. But then you have that doctors and experts are telling individuals, you can have a glass of wine, or they may look at other, as part of their custom to drink while, at certain events or with their dinner, and they're like, well, that person didn't get injured and that person doesn't have any issues. Well, you know what? We live in America, okay, where they're spraying things and 5G is everywhere, and our bodies are hit with many, many assaults. So adding ETOH alcohol to it is an assault. And you have to be an avid label reader so you don't get yourself in trouble. Like kombucha, that can get you in trouble if you're not picking the right one. You guys know that, right? Some of them have ETOH, okay? So just be aware of these things. What about this, sleep deprivation? Some of y'all doing this at night? Stop the abuse, right? Stop. Well, you know, Sister Paula did a great presentation, I guess it was last year, on sleep deprivation. You know, when you go into deep sleep between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., the science has shown that's the only time your brain actually starts removing waste, okay? That's the only time. You can't do it when you're sitting on the couch taking a nap. The brain is not doing that. The brain only rests and removes waste, okay, during deep sleep between 10 and 3. If you're not getting that, your brain is not removing waste, okay? So chronic sleep deprivation. Some of us work the night shift, burning the midnight oil, okay? Look, you have to just come to the decision that your health is worth more than what anybody could pay you, because essentially your health is your wealth. Sometimes you may just have to just trust God that he will give you another job, you know, and make that decision that you're not going to work night shift and you're going to try to get that good quality sleep. Okay, so, all right, we're not going to do like our friend here. When you know better, you do better. Oh, mercy. I'm going to get ourselves in trouble here. Did I do them all? Okay, who's got the mic? I need a reader. And let me just go back on the slide. The word of the day, guys, the word of the day, autophagy, is a term where the brain is removing waste and repairing itself, or any part of the body, but primarily the brain. When the body goes into that mode where it's repairing and removing waste, it also does it in time-restricted eating. You know, when you stop eating at a certain time, specifically in the evenings, going into the evenings, stop putting stuff in your mouth, because your body is going to go into that autophagy stage. The science has shown, even though we've been told this, that your body goes into repair mode, repair and rebuilding itself when you're not taxing it with food, because it's not, the stomach isn't working. The stomach can rest while you rest and repair itself. Same thing with the brain. Okay, so that's the word of the day, autophagy. There is a quiz following this. Okay, read this. Who's got the mic?
And A&D, adult neurological diseases or disorders. The stomach is closely related to the brain, and when the stomach is diseased, the nerve power is called from the brain to the aid of the weakened digestive organs. Ministry of Healing.
You guys
Alzheimer's.
Oh, I'll read that part. Okay, thank you. You guys agree with that statement? How many people disagree with that statement? Right? Hippocrates said it best, that all disease starts in the gut. So if you want to have health, right, you fix the gut. If your gut microbiome is destroyed, it's almost like it's almost like a city on a hill with the lights on and no wall around him, okay? When your gut microbiome is destroyed, your gut flora is destroyed, it's like a city up on a hill. Y'all get my analogy? Up on a hill with the lights on, and it has no wall around it. That means it could get attacked from whatever angle, and it's drawing attention to itself because it has lights on. That's an individual with a destroyed gut microbiome, destroyed gut. Where does gut health start? When baby comes out, right? Actually starts when mama's pregnant with baby. Well, actually it starts long before mama's pregnant, in her 20s, actually. She's taking care of herself and she's able to conceive and have a baby. Baby gets pushed out, right? Baby then is not bathe. We don't want to bathe baby yet. We're going to leave all that stuff on baby. We're going to wipe baby down, wrap baby up, give it to mama. And then mama starts nursing baby, gives baby colostrum. That's passive immunity, right? That's where your gut health starts. And the experts know this because they push, for women to breastfeed now. They want them to breastfeed because they realize the benefits of starting that child off immediately with passive immunity. Okay, that's where the gut starts to get introduced to different microorganisms. We have trillions, billions, who knows, trillions and trillions of bacteria in our gut that keeps us alive. Without them working together, we would be dead. We would have no immunity. We wouldn't be able to absorb our food. But, there's chronic abuse that is happening to the gut. Remember, we looked at that last time I spoke, that, over many graves could be written, died of an abused stomach. Things that we do to abuse the gut, unknown to many is the chronic use of antibiotics. It wipes out the gut microbiome. You have a headache, I'm gonna take a fistful of ibuprofen instead of getting to the root cause of the problem. Sometimes you just need to hydrate and take some magnesium. What other things? Drinking while you're eating. You need a cold drink while you eat. Those are all things that destroy the good gut microbiome and good flora. We looked at it. The destroyers of the impairers of brain and function, we looked at them. Refined sugar, caffeine, all of that destroys the gut. So once the gut is destroyed, now it's like that city on the hill with no walls with the lights on. Now disease is coming. It's hitting you from all angles, okay? Alzheimer's is a specific disease of the brain. It includes death of neurological cells, connectors resulting in memory loss and cognitive function. So what they see in the brains of individuals that are suffering from Alzheimer's is the brain starts to shrink. You have amyloid plaques and tau tangles. That is actually the body's response to assault on the brain, chronic assault on the brain. That's why they say this disease is a disease of your 30s and your 40s, and it manifests itself in your 60s and 70s. So what you do in your 30s and 40s determines more or less what happens to you in terms of getting this disease. This is the 5th or 6th leading cause of death in this country. Depending on the year, it may get the 5th place or the 6th place. I think number 1 is either cancer, depending on the year, heart disease. I call them the big 5s: cancer, certain types of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, and I believe hypertension. Those are your big 5s. But that's why experts are so concerned, because they keep seeing a rise in this disease. So, and what they've saw is these amyloid plaques, hardening of the vessels, and tau tangles. The best way I could describe it are like strings coming off the brain. And it baffled them. They're like, what is this? But it's essentially, it's, the body's defense mechanism and its response to assault over long chronic periods of time. So the brain starts to kind of say, okay, I'm just going to hold on to what is essential to what I need in order to survive. So it's the body's response to assault. That's what Alzheimer's is. That's the disease. You might hear it also referred to as Alzheimer's dementia. Dementia is kind of like the umbrella, and then under that umbrella, there are specific diseases. But groups of diseases, they include chronic. So dementia is a group of diseases: chronic or persistent mental decline of memory loss, judgment, and personality changes. So there are 3 stages of dementia. And when you hit stage 3, that's usually when they say this person has Alzheimer's. So the Alzheimer's is the advanced, specific advanced decline of dementia. So stage 1, most people aren't aware that they're in stage 1. Okay, it's hard to diagnose someone in stage 1 because the brain is still holding on to quite a bit of what it can hold on to. The assault hasn't gotten that bad. So most people don't know they're in stage 1. It could be, and I'm not saying just because you forget your keys here now and then that you have dementia, By the time the person gets into stage 2, their loved ones are the ones that say they're not themselves. Something is going on with them, okay? Stage 2 is when like they're used to going to the grocery store. Everybody has a grocery store that they go to that's near their house, right? You go there at least once or twice a week because you ran out of milk. You need some bread because it's your food group, okay? You could almost go to that store with your eyes closed because you go there so much. You know exactly where everything is in that store because you're always there. Everybody has a store around the corner from their house. But that individual, when they're in stage 2, they're going to the grocery store like they always go to, and they can't find their way home. That's when you know they're in stage 2. And stage 3 is when they've been pretty much told they have Alzheimer's. The damage is so advanced and so severe. They become a danger to themselves. They no longer are themselves. They'll leave. I mean, they'll disappear on you. They're the ones, they'll open the door and walk out and just, they're lost. You hear them on the news. They're lost for 2 or 3 days, until a family member finds them. They no longer can remember their address. They no longer can drive. They've lost their independence. That's stage 3. It can be very devastating. When you think about it, an individual who has worked all their lives, raised their kids, they're a great citizen in the community. They're not a pest, okay? People love them, even if people don't, but still, it's still devastating. And they're with, their husband or wife, and they look at their husband and wife, and they finally made it to the 60s, okay? And they look at their husband and wife, and the two of them have been working really hard, and they say to one another, grow old along with me, the best is yet to come. And the next thing you know, they're at a doctor's office being told that they have this devastating disease. They say that that death comes long before the grave does. That's why it's so devastating. Some of the things that are manifested. Okay. All right. Okay. Can I get a reader? We're going to look at some of the things. I had to group some of this for time purposes. So there are more things that do assault on the brain, okay? But I picked the top most popular ones that we see in this country. And we're also going to look at some of the signs and symptoms of what this disease looks like. So whoever has a mic, read for me.
Through wrong habits of eating, the appetite has become perverted. Ministry of Healing.
Y'all agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Very much so. Through wrong habits, what they look like.
Mm.
So a lot of the wrong habits that we see is with these fast food, I call them fast death. So you get foods that are high in oil, trans fat. Well, nature doesn't give us trans fat. We don't need trans fat in our diet. I mean, the closest we might get is coconut oil. Okay, and that's because we've processed it down to be what it is. But nature doesn't give you that, okay? That's man that gives you that. Inflammation can be caused by infections, toxins, refined sugars create inflammation in the body. Why do you not want to walk around with elevated blood glucose? BG is blood glucose. It's it's almost like putting fire on your vessels, right? When your body has the inability to regulate insulin, okay, especially type 2, which is primarily driven by diet and lifestyle, when the body is unable to do that, it destroys the vessels. That's why individuals with diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes, will end up with, neuropathy, different, they, lose their sight. So diabetes is a gateway to many, many diseases and complications. And one of them is this that they're finding out. So, I remember one night I got a call because I do perioperative care. I go on call. Actually, I go on call tonight at 7. We get a call, and this podiatrist wants to open up the OR and do surgery. We're like, oh, can't just wait till morning. So it was this young guy. He was in his 40s, and he ended up in the ER that night. So the podiatrist took him into the OR. He had a horrible wound infection on the bottom of his foot. And he was lucky he was able to keep his toes. But when he came out, I looked at him, I was like, what are you doing with your life? You know, he was morbidly obese, and he was telling me how he went on a cruise. This always happens. They go on a cruise. So what happens on the cruise? You eat whatever you want. You know, I mean, literally, it's like free for all. Okay. So he's really eating worse than what he would eat at home. And he was having issues with his foot. And so it was just exacerbated. And I was just like, stop the abuse. But when I get them, I have a conversation with them. I'm like, you're young, you have your whole life, like make these changes. Like a lot of people don't want to make health changes. They want to wait till they get to the doctor, and the doctor is going to tell them what to eat and what to do. Well, that's too late. I work with doctors. They're wonderful. The majority of them are wonderful people. There are some that are challenged, but a lot of them suffer from a lot of the diseases that they spent their whole life treating, And a lot of people are like, well, I'm waiting for my doctor to be an expert in nutrition and diet. Well, he's waiting for you to read the science that's out there and become the expert on nutrition and diet for your life. You should be in the driver's seat. That's why I love the Ministry of Healing. It's like one of the best diet books because it keeps you from eating yourself to death, literally. But you meet these individuals. So a lot of times when I meet them, I'm like, read this book. You need to be in the driver's seat. You need to be the expert on your health. You need to study the science and read the journals. I have 4 numbers I'm going to read off to you. I was supposed to do it in the beginning. It just crossed my mind now. 4 numbers. They are 40, 48, and 67. They are not the lottery number, okay? If you're playing the lottery, we're worried about you because you're bad at math, but 40, 48, 67, we'll get to those numbers. I was supposed to tell you in the beginning. It just came to my mind as I was going on. 3 numbers. I'm sorry, did I say 4? Okay, thank you for correcting me. You got my back. 40, 48, 67. Y'all got those numbers? All right, they're gonna unlock the magic door, I hope. Malnutrition. When you think of malnutrition, many of us think of certain countries where the government has allowed other groups to come in and oppress certain groups and create war, civil war. They have the 1% that holds all the wealth in the country. And so as a result, the children are caught in the middle of all of this. They're deprived of proper nutrition, and they got distended bellies, and their hair is like orange because, they're malnourished. That's what it looks like, right? That's what you think of. That's what I think of, I'll be honest with you. Not in this country. Malnutrition actually looks like, we see it in our healthcare where we have these chronic, morbidly obese individuals. They're the size of a baby elephant, weighing 500 pounds or plus. And they're malnourished in the micronutrients because they're eating the junk. And the junk is loaded with macronutrients, which is the fat, the trans fat. It's loaded with animal protein, okay, and simple carbohydrates. And so they're malnourished, and the micronutrients that you need, the potassium, the zinc, the magnesium, you find them primarily in your cruciferous vegetables like we talked about. And those micronutrients help the body in removing waste and rebuilding cells. They're deficient in that. SOS is the ultra-processed diet, the American diet, high in salt, oils, and refined sugar. So malnutrition looks like vitamin deficiency, immune decline, increased BMI. We talked about this body mass index. You want to get your body mass index as close to, when we looked at the blue zones, those individuals that are in the blue zones, when we went to Costa Rica, I don't think we saw any like obese Costa Ricans. I think maybe there might've been a few overweight. but they were not like morbidly, chronically obese like you see. I mean, I'm not beating up on Americans, but this is what we're dealing with. There's a crisis. You should, if you, and this is righteous anger, I promise, you should see what this diet is doing to our children. It should make us all angry. Because experts are saying that the parents will be burying these children. These children are suffering from the asthma, the eczema, the autism, the hyper behavior. All of that is stemmed from the junk that the government allows these food corporations to put in the stores and dope people up with. Yes, I'm angry. I took care of a young boy in the surgical bay, and they said he was 3 years old. I kept looking at him. I said, no way he could be 3, because y'all see your Berean baby who is 3. That's the Berean baby, Enoch. He's active. He speaks in full sentences. He looks like a normal 3-year-old. He was wearing occasionally we have to put the 3-year-old in a pull-up. That little boy was, and the pull-up is size 3. That little boy was wearing a size 6. That was the size he was. So he was double the size that he needed to be. And he was in there having surgery because they had to remove a lot of his baby teeth because they all rotted. And you can't, they can't take him to the dentist and make him sit in a chair. You've ever seen it? You can't do that to a 3-year-old. We can hardly keep the 3-year-old in the chair for the dentist to actually clean his mouth, Even adults can't do it. So they have to take them to the OR, put them to sleep. It's major surgery, remove the rotten teeth, do the fillings for that child, whatever they could preserve, they'll put fillings in. And he was getting 6 of them done, So all his teeth was, and there was ones that were already rotten, So it makes me angry that, our kids are suffering unnecessarily, because of this diet and what, these corporations are allowed to do. But you go to certain countries, these corporations are not allowed to do that. The government does not let them do that at all. These kids are fed natural foods. They don't spray, chemicals on everything. When we were in Costa Rica, we took a ride to this town called La Fortuna. It was a town that pretty much got swallowed up by the volcano, but there was people who were able to survive and they were able to preserve the town. So they called it La Fortuna. Did I say that right? La Fortuna? Fortuna. La Fortuna. He's my Spanish teacher. And it means the fortunate ones, okay? So while we were driving there, we stopped along we were going up these hills, okay? We stopped along the hillside. And as we stepped out, these cattle came running towards us. They were like happy cows, And it came to my mind, that, our Heavenly Father owns cattle on the 1,000 hills. And now I fully understood that. They were so happy to see us, and they had their little baby calves with them. You don't see that in this country. The baby calves, and the minute, the heifer gives birth, they take the baby calf. If it's a male, they slaughter it, and that's veal. And if it's a female, they feed them junk until they can, impregnate her, and then use her milk to continue to exploit her until she can't, produce milk anymore. But her milk is used to feed people and make cheese and so on and so on. But, they had the heifers had their little baby calves with them, and they were nursing, and there was no smell. There was no smell. I was waiting for the smell. There was no smell whatsoever. The wind was blowing towards us. I'm like, where's the smell? As I was driving through Texas, which is like feedlot capital, okay? It's just nothing but feedlots, sometimes on both sides of the road. The smell is horrific, because these poor animals are left in deplorable conditions, standing in their own feces, fed garbage all day. And then when they're too diseased to stand, they're slaughtered, and that's what they feed to the public. So we got to move on. Leaky gut syndrome, it's all in the name. That bad bacteria, once you lose your good bacteria, your good gut microbiome is wiped out. You're left with leaky gut. Everything you eat makes you sick, essentially. That's what happens to these individuals. They become allergic to everything. And now they give these, and they're standing and telling everybody gluten is bad, corn is bad, wheat is bad, blah, on and on and on. No, those foods our ancestors were eating since the dawn of the ages, since the pyramids and the hills. Okay, it's not the corn, it's not the wheat. Certain cultures, that's their staple diet, and they're not sick. It's the way the food is treated, and it's, the abuse that they have done to the stomach. We have to move on. Otherwise, we won't finish. Who's got the mic? I need a reader. So I want you to read this top part.
Therefore, the question with us is not what is the world's practice, but how shall I, as an individual, treat the habitation that God has given me?
I love that
Minister,
statement.
yeah.
I want to put it to memory, because a habitation is not just your body, it's this planet. He already told us, okay, I'm gonna summarize in my own words. If we destroy this habitation, this body, this planet, okay, he's gonna destroy us. Why would he take us if we can't stop destroying this body, this planet? Why would he take us up to heaven and then bring us down here to the new earth so we can continue to destroy, kill, and abuse the animals? Why would he do that? Okay. Toxins that are just everywhere. As we're sitting in here trying to learn ways to improve our health and our life and our overall spiritual well-being, man is out there creating toxins to put in the environment and just continue to kill and destroy. But I may not be able to control what my neighbor does, but I can control what I'm doing. Okay. I had an individual come to my door and was offering to spray our property to get rid of the ants and the spiders and the different insects. And I'm like, and I gave him a long lecture and he quickly ran away. He was like, oh, can't convince her otherwise. But I was like, I don't war against nature. I work with nature, okay? That spider and these ants, okay, they're all working together, okay? And as long as I don't have an infestation, I am not spraying my property. We went through this. My husband and I, when we first bought our property, we didn't fully understand, so we had them spray our yard. And the weeds grew like trees, okay? And they killed my flowers. So after that year, I told them, don't ever come back. And it took years for the soil to rebuild itself. And I still see the aftermath of spraying 1 year. So no, I don't spray my property. I have to treat it for termites. Y'all know we live in Georgia, and the occasional seasons when it's super hot and you have to be outdoors, you might do a little spray for mosquitoes, but I am not going in there and just going just spraying and killing everything, just warring against nature. Like, why would I do that? I plant organic gardens. Thank you very much. I got 3 of them, and I'm going to continue to plant gardens because gardens bring the birds and the ladybugs and the butterflies, and I get free food and nature, and I take care of nature, and nature's taking care of me, and we are one. That's how we live here in this house. So he quickly went about his way. But yes, you do not want to be living in an environment like this. What's wrong with the mold? Why do you not want to be living among mold? Mold is the undertaker, right? If mold shows up, it's taking you away. That is death. Okay, mold kills, and it will wreak havoc on your health. So you do not want to paint over this or spray it with bleach. You might need to move. It's time to go to the country, right? But she talks about that in the Ministry of Healing, that, we are to open our windows and let the sunlight in. Okay, we are not to have dark rooms in our house that don't see sunlight. I mean, maybe the occasional closet, but even the closet needs to be aired out, right? Better hygienic practices, better sanitation, and properly get this treated. And all this plastic, somebody offers you a bottled water. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to drink the water, but I've invested in the hydro flask, and I love this because that's my way where, I don't have to, drink out of a plastic bottle that might end up in the landfills. That's my way. Genetics. So this is the genetic gene that they have found. It could be devastating for individuals who have been told that they have this gene, that APOE4, which is the gene that is tied to Alzheimer's and dementia. And many individuals, what causes them to go get the genetic testing is because they have a mother or very close loved ones early on in life that have suffered from that disease. So they kind of know. But what the experts are saying about the genetics is that, genetics is the gun. I've said that before, and I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's the bullet that loads the gun, but lifestyle and diet pulls the trigger. So genetics is very low in terms of you getting dementia. They say it's about 5% or less. So that's, comforting news for individuals who do have this gene. So that just leaves them in terms of their daily choices, whether they end up with the disease. So the genetic gene is not going to give it to you. It may be the bullet and the gun, that you're walking around with a loaded gun, but the trigger doesn't have to go off, okay, essentially. You can't control your genes. Can you go back into your mother's womb and choose, your parents? You can't do that. You can't choose your genes, but it's the expressions of your genes. You can turn them on, you can turn them off based off diet and lifestyle, but the gene, you might hear it like, the APOE4, it can be, devastating for individuals that do know that, but a lot of them they're suspicious of it because they're like, my mom had dementia at 40. Like those things don't happen. It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to, God never intended for us to age and, to age where we can't remember ourselves or identify our loved ones. That's not, he didn't intend that. This is new. When you look at the span of human history, this disease is new because it was not like that. That's not how people age. Okay, so let's talk about, we got a reader. Do we have a reader? I need somebody to read this.
Every movement of every organ involves waste, and this waste is repaired from our food.
Yes, thank you. That was my mistake. It was getting late. Okay, so the disease progression looks like this. Memory loss, right? Okay. They go from a full functioning adult to, I don't know where my keys are, to not being able to keep track of their bank account, to can't get to the grocery store that they go to all the time. Memory loss. Facial blindness. Facial blindness is not being able to identify their loved ones and their friends. They have that, that look that you give a stranger, like, who are you? That's the look they're giving their loved ones, okay? Mental fatigue. And mental fatigue is usually like they have a lot of energy in the start of the day, but then by 3 p.m., they're like almost useless. It's like, sundowning real bad. Difficulty remembering, reading, comprehension. So it's just like an overall, like, they may read something, but it doesn't connect, like our brains, when we read things, our brain starts to make these connections, right? So it's just an overall global decline, okay? And then the sleep disruption, it could be they easily switch their nights from days. So they want to sleep all day and they're up all night long. And like I said, our brains have got to get rest, especially that deep sleep that happens, between 10 and 3, where the brain is repairing itself and removing waste. Once again, this is a disease because of chronic assault on the brain that goes on for 15 to 20 years. And you don't see the signs and symptoms till later on down the road. Some of the diagnostic screening includes PET scan, MRI scan, lumbar puncture, genetic testing, where they can look at the gene, the APOE, that, they can identify it, physical and cognitive exams that they do in the office. And then the class of drug that you might see is this cholinesterase inhibitors. Example is Aricept. And again, this pill is not going to, once the damage is done to the neurons, it's done. This pill is what it does is it helps so that the individual doesn't feel like they're in a fog. So it helps to clear the fog, and it helps to keep them in stage 2 longer. But inevitably, if they don't stop the assault on the brain, they're going to end up in stage 3, which is losing their independence, defecating on themselves, the inability to speak. My husband's grandfather is suffering from dementia. When I first came into my husband's life, this was like 10 years ago. Okay, so it was about 12 years ago. He was very sharp. This man was sharp, okay? All right, so when I walked into the room, he said something to me, and I was kind of like, what? Won't tell you what he said, but anyways. And now when you walk into the room, he just stares at the wall. He doesn't, turn his head to your voice. He doesn't acknowledge his children. I mean, he literally just stares at the wall and makes sounds. And he is total care, And when I think about Papa Harding, we just laid him down to rest in February, and he got to go with all his faculties intact. That's the way God wants us to go, when he's ready for us to go with all our faculties intact. Yeah, you may have some limitations when you get older, but your brain should not be like in global decline, and the inability to, speak and express yourselves and, to have your being, like that's not normal aging. That is not. Okay. All right. I need a reader. Can I get a reader?
If we plan wisely, that which is most conducive to health can be secured in almost every land.
All right. You all know New Start. You see my emphasis is on E, New Start. Somebody give me New Start. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, trust in God. We should know it forward, backwards, inside out. Trust in God, rest, air, temperance, sunlight, water, exercise, nutrition, right? New Start isn't going away. It is here to stay. It seems so simple, but in simplicity, there is complexity, and we should have it both, right? Did you guys hear that sitting is the new smoking? Oh, you didn't hear that? Well, it is. Here's the numbers, the 40, 48, 67. Let me see if I wrote this down. Let me read it to y'all. Why those numbers are important. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Okay. So the American Medical Journal did a study. We love studies, right? And it had, the title was Physical, Diet, and Risk of Alzheimer's Disease. It included 1,800 participants. It went on for 14 years. The longer a study goes on, the more participants, the harder the endpoint. That means the conclusion is definite, okay? We could take it and run with it. And what they concluded was those, so within the people that they were studying, there were different groups. They had the groups that just ate junk, ate the standard American diet. And then you had some that ate healthy. And they found that the individuals that ate, a healthy diet, similar to the Mediterranean diet, right, in the blue zones, they had a 40% chance of not getting dementia and Alzheimer's later on in life. And that was just diet changes. So that increased their chance by 40% of not getting the disease, okay? Then within those groups, there were some that were very active, that loved to hike and walk, right? Move, okay? And they increased their chance of not getting dementia and Alzheimer's by 48% as compared to the ones that didn't move at all, or that moved very, very little. And combined, when they combined the individuals with that ate a proper diet, primarily plants, not the standard American diet or satanic American diet, whatever y'all want to call it. When they combine the diet and moving, exercise, are actually moving, walking, hiking, running, they increase their chance of not getting dementia and Alzheimer's by 67%. That's why these numbers are important. 40, 48, 67, okay? All right. Proper diet, we talked about this the last time. A proper diet that God designed for us is Genesis 1:29. I like the acronym G-BOMBS. Y'all know I like that from Dr. Furman's greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Genesis 1:29 is our diet of choice, herb-bearing seed, fruit-yielding tree. Grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. Do y'all agree? You are my people. And then I did want to touch on functional medicine. So functional medicine seek to help these individuals that are diagnosed, especially if they're only in stage 2, because stage 1 is very hard to diagnose. But if they can get them diagnosed in stage 1, it helps to help them make proper lifestyle changes, detoxing, and help them to supplement properly. And they have found that these individuals have been able to once they stop the abuse, the assault on the brain stops, and the brain is able to, you can't fix the neurons that are damaged, but the brain is able to function and not continue to have that global decline that you see with this disease. Okay, this is the end of my slide, but I'm leaving you all with a little gift. I have 4 slides from our trip to Costa Rica. This is the volcano at La Fortuna. I think I said that right. Fortuna. I'm gonna get there one day. But yeah, this was the lucky town. And our tour guide told us we were very lucky to come that day because most of the time they don't get to see the volcano. It's usually covered up by 50%, and you can actually see the very top. So we were very lucky to show up that day. So that was awesome. This is another angle. We hiked through the rainforest. It rained on us so bad. We were just like drenched and covered in rain, but the experience was so worth it. And then we did cross over into Nicaragua. And this is an active volcano. We got to walk up to the active volcano. Man is so wicked. They said that a lot of the way back when the natives were doing human sacrifices, and man is just wicked, okay? They're not going to stop till Michael stands up. But it was a great experience seeing the volcano, being able to walk up to the volcano. You can't stay there very long because the smoke, like the minute we walked up to it, my throat started to itch. So we knew we couldn't stay very long. So we stayed maybe about like 20 minutes. And then one of the most beautiful sunsets off the Pacific Ocean.